Who is like God? Who is like God? Who is like God? A rhetorical question implying there is no one. Yes, Michael from Hebrew is Michael. Michael, the name, is essentially from Hebrew, the word Michael. I'm so thankful to my parents who named their firstborn child, firstborn son, Michael. Michael was dedicated, even as a child, to full-time service to God, full-time ministry, following the Old Testament law that required parents to dedicate their firstborn to God. My parents fully, totally consecrated little one to God and named him Michael. And every single step of his life, God proved he is God. Who is like God? Now, before I talk about incidents about my brother and me in the family and his life, I'd like to talk about Michael, the character from the Bible. Michael is an awesome character from the Bible. It's referenced to him 16 times in the Bible. And he's one of the archangels in defending God's kingdom against Satan. So, as we all know, it's not the battle between flesh and blood. The battle is spiritual. The greater battle behind all that we see is this battle as to who God is. And as we all know, in the education system, we have theories to prove there is no God. In such a context, Michael defeats the enemy of God, Satan. And how does he do it? The little epistle in the New Testament titled Jude gives you a beautiful picture of how Saint Michael operates. If the first angel, Lucifer, fell out of pride, that sin of pride is the first sin. And so we find, according to the epistle in Jude, Saint Michael wins the battle through humility. And he dare not rebuke Satan directly. He says, "The Lord rebuke you." Please read Jude's epistle. And so, that's the weapon Saint Jude employs. This weapon of humility to defeat the greatest sin of all time, pride. So the more we humble ourselves and seek God's help, the better it is for us and our health. Coming back to my brother, my elder brother, older than me by 2 years. But when I look at it, I feel he was so wise, almost 20 years older than me. Yes, so quiet, very observant. And in his childhood, as he crawled over, he would inspect each ant, find out what the ant was up to. very observant, very serious, not like me, probably smiling all the time, but very, very thoughtful, very loving, kind, and intelligent. So he excelled in his studies to such an extent. He was educated in Australia. My parents did their best to afford him the best of education all times, and he excelled as an A grade student in a topic out of this world. It's theology, the thought of God, the study of the existence of God and the workings of God in this world. And that was where he excelled in. Now he's living up to his name, living up, and Saint Michael guiding him through, because throughout his life he faced attacks of the enemy. I remember the time when my mother ran, not knowing why she was running, and then she found her baby son drowning in a pool of water in the tank. So the attacks of the enemy were there all the time. There was, I say this to the glory of God, a particular doctor who had vested interests, and he wanted our family to be perpetual patients. His perpetual patients, for reasons best known to him, to dictate matters over us and our family, to take control of us. And he would see that we were always in the sick mode, always with illnesses, always with diseases, and yet we were not defeated, because my brother and I fared well in school, and he did his master's in sociology, and later in Australia in Calvin Theological Seminary for 4 years he did his Bachelor of Divinity. When he came back to India, he was busy doing his master's in SciAx. And it was at that time God secured his future life with his beautiful wife, because through one of his professors, he was able to marry a chosen bride from God's hands, and he was blessed with 2 sons, wonderful, like again warriors. My brother loved cricket very much, so he named them Brian and Brandon after the cricketers' names. And so the story is, my brother is always victorious in spite of all the attacks. He was the object of envy around in the neighborhood, because all the children realized something about him. He was always well dressed, neatly ironed shirts, and never was tempted to eat outside, even bondas. He always was attached to the family. Mama was always giving him the best, including choosing his clothes and everything about him. And so he didn't have to worry about anything. And so his friends used to say, how is it we are neglected, ignored? But you are like a prince taken good care of in your family. And so my brother encountered all that in me, and he overcame all that, and he had such humility that in spite of all the good marks he could get, he'd go and say he's failed. Well, that was pleasing to the ears of the enemies, so he would give them that, just pacify them that way. But his humility and greatness is awesome, and he rose up, and now today in Texas, Pasadena, he is successfully doing God's work in a way that is not obvious to all, because he never did any independent ministry. He never wanted to claim name, fame for himself, but he really worked with a life example. Of course, he's ready to preach wherever he's called. That's there. But to sustain the family, he worked hard from scratch, and he let go all his scholarship, his doctorate, to do the work that would sustain his family. That's the humility that wins the battle again. And so today his children are well educated, highly educated, and that's a matter of joy to us, that they are shining examples in America's youth, among American people, setting a good example with a good life, not addicted to anything. And so another thing about my brother, lastly, I would like to say, he was so satisfied in his upbringing that he never craved for anybody's attention. In the sense, youth around him would resort to eve teasing, looking at girls with lust, but he was not that kind. His purity is incredible purity, and he was always looking to God to fulfill every need of his. This is the magic in his name. And I would like to just say a little thing about his love that I experienced. He was just 10 years old and I was 8, of course, and it was inevitable duty that fell upon my parents, that they left both of us alone at home to return back in short while. So we both were playing carom board, and my little brother, noticed boric acid on my lips. Immediately got into action. He wanted to save me from poisoning. He took charge of me and locked the door, and out we were. He took me to our aunt's house. Meanwhile, my parents searched frantically. Having reached home, they searched all over frantically for their children, believing they're lost. And soon it was found. This was the act my brother did that showed he was able to take little decisions, powerful decisions, to save, and that love remains forever. And that's what he is in the heart, and that humility. And so we remember Saint Michael once again, and I like to end this with this prayer to Saint Michael that we receive from the glorious Church of God. Saint Michael, the Archangel, defend us in the day of battle. Be our safeguard against the wickedness and snares of the devil. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all other evil spirits that prowl through the world, seeking the ruin of souls. So, thank you.